I am here with Brother Wendell Jordan, who is an advocate. And he's an advocate. I don't know how to describe it. You're fighting for the court system to be fair with fathers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And then you brought this shirt here and didn't bring me one.
Right. Well,
black dads are dope.
Well, I mean, we all are.
That's it.
Well, what we want to do is actually kind of change the narrative that's out there. And so the name of the film that I'm working on is called Beat Dead Dads, and that's actually by design. It's actually in reverse because we usually hear about deadbeat dads.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is change the vernacular, because when we talk about how fathers are publicized and how fathers are talked about, they're usually talked about with some kind of negative connotation. Either they're ignorant to knowing what their kids are even doing. They only, provide for their children blindly and kind of, hand off the money and then,
keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Right.
So what we're looking at is helping fathers navigate a system that doesn't value them in the same way that it does moms.
Let's talk about the court system and dads. There's two sides. There's the actual deadbeat dad, the one that is negating his responsibility to his children.
Does nothing.
Right. And then there's the dad who is doing what he can do, but the mom takes him to court anyway to get more.
Absolutely.
And the court tends to side more with the mom.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me why?
Every time, 9 out of 10 times.
Well, what we're dealing with is a situation that's known as maternal preference. So maternal preference obviously means preference of the mother. And so essentially what we're looking at is the biology there. And so initially why that was a factor was because that moms obviously at the earlier stages of a child's life, the child biologically needs the mom to suckle.
Right.
So in terms of those specific needs, we don't look at that as a time that the father is needed, even though nurturing and closeness and all of those things factor in with our children. Society has chosen to believe that the mom is the most important part of that. And so in terms of the court system, they don't necessarily see dads in the same way that they do moms. So emotional connections aren't pinpointed as important when it comes to the fathers. So typically, when we're looking at low-income minority dads, the issue is that we're dealing with a provider-dependent system. And so the provider-dependent system means that whoever is in the dependent side of things gets to then go and attack that provider. And so that's essentially how the system is set up. And so we're dealing with a court system where you also don't have 12 jurors. You only have one judge. And so that judge is typically the one who comes out with the decision on who gets kids, on who actually gets the children, on how things are divvied up in terms of the finances and what the responsibilities are.
Tell us, what's the inspiration behind the film?
Well, I myself obviously am a father.
Okay.
And so there was a point where I had moved away for a time. And so while my son was growing up, I was actually in New York. And I moved back. And so during that time when I moved back, you're kind of jostling for position to find out where you're actually going to be in your child's life.
Okay.
And so my son got to spend a summer with me. And he was totally thrilled at the opportunity to spend some time.
Right.
And so he asked me, Dad, is it possible to share equal time? Can I have 2 weeks with you and 2 weeks with my mom? And, of course, I jumped at the chance.
Right.
But, of course, I had to talk to my new wife first. And so I said, absolutely, son, let's just have a conversation. And so I talked to my wife. She said, absolutely. And then we went to talk to his mom, and she said no. And so seeing that I had never been abusive with my son, seeing that there had never been a situation where I had done anything criminal or negligent or had any issues, why would it then be that his mother would then deny me the time with my son? And so first I started to go the court route. And so what I noticed was when I went there was a lack of father-friendly environments in the court system. And so just even getting the information that I needed was a kind of brutal journey. And in terms of that, you have attorneys who essentially want you to get a retainer that costs you $2,500.
Sure.
And so if you're a low-income dad,
Right.
that obviously, you know what I mean?
That's a whole month money,
you know
right?
what I mean?
Right.
So that obviously also takes away from the potential that you have to kind of give to your child. And so what I started to then do was think about the system and how it shaped up. And so part of why it was so easy for her to do that was because she was receiving funds from me for the system. And so if I then got halftime with my son, that then meant that I no longer had to pay child support.
That's right. That's right.
So then the system,
there it is.
the way that the system is set up means that if certain people want to utilize it a particular way, meaning I sometimes say weaponize the system. Weaponizing the system means that you can then point that dog at somebody and then say sick 'em. So essentially what we're looking at is a system that if a mom chooses, she can then go, hey, for any particular reason, she can decide, even if you've been there for your child, if she's frustrated with you at the moment, she can put you on quote-unquote papers. And if she puts you on quote-unquote papers, then that means the court is now coming after you, not just being badmouthed by her or any other situation like that. And so I then started to do more and more research and came to find out that the divorce court system is a $1 billion industry.
My God.
Sure.
And so billions of dollars obviously means that something gets lost in there. So we're dealing with the American justice system, and if justice is supposed to be for all, then it can't be for all if I can only get the justice that I can afford.
Right. Okay.
And so what I started to look at was then you kind of have to follow the money and see what essentially happens. And so we would look at cases where there was a film that was called Divorce Corpse. And so Divorce Corpse in terms of divorce corporation.
Right, right.
And so every time there's a court filing, there's money that goes from the attorneys to the court. And so if somebody files a document about you, you cannot not file back without the court then saying that initial filing is true. So if somebody files a filing, if I file a filing against you and you don't respond, that means that whatever I say is true.
That's right.
And so with that, there's a way that the paper then has to come back and forth and back and forth. And with every filing, there's more and more money going out of your pocket that could be going towards your child.
Sure.
And so one of the things that the film points out is that we're actually, if you are a parent who's going through the divorce courts system, then essentially you're paying for your attorney's children to go to college. And you're no longer able to foot the bill for your own child to go to school. And so what that then had me do was look at the lower end of the spectrum. Typically, minorities don't earn as much money. So if you're on the end where you don't have that, and you can't approach an attorney, where are you then? In the sense that you no longer have any avenue to find a pathway to your child. And so the point of my documentary or my film, because I actually was able to connect with some non-for-profits whose point it is to reconnect children with their fathers. So the Fatherless Generation Foundation I found in Atlanta. And it's run by Dr. Tori Evans Barton, who's a pretty amazing woman. Essentially, they reunite dads with their children or children with their dads, because the whole point is to have a balanced individual. So even if, let's say, your dad is not the brightest in the bunch, you then still have a choice in terms of what you can learn from your father. Because there is something that, your dad has, or that's a part of you that he can give you that you don't even know that you need, just by his presence. And so that's one of the things that I think that we overlook when it comes to fathers and how the system treats dads and undervalues them. So as I continue to kind of do more and more research, there was an attorney that I came in contact with. His name is Ronald Colbert. So Ronald Colbert actually operates out of Washington, D.C., and he was he is a divorce attorney who actually got custody of his own kids.
Okay.
And so when I started researching the film, you know how God works. He was one of the first attorneys that I spoke to.
Right.
Okay.
And so him having just received custody of his kids and me trying to find the information around how to navigate the court system so that I could then share it with other fathers, he then said, well, you know, I have 3 or 4 people that are in the same situation. I know, you know, 4 colleagues that have just received custody of their kids, and I can absolutely help you with this. So how this thing then snowballs is that when you're dealing with a particular county, the laws vary per county, per state.
Per state, that's right.
And so what I'm trying to do with this particular film is deal with the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area, not all counties, obviously.
Right.
But
We'll get there.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. We have 2 minutes left.
Sure.
And you've offered. So you've said a lot of stuff. We need to bring you back. I'm sitting overwhelmed. I'm sitting just. I forgot I was on air for a minute. I was just standing like, wow. So look, let's do this. The film is not done yet, right?
No.
You're still looking for funding.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have a GoFundMe or anything?
Well, that's what I'm working on right now. I did actually have an Indiegogo campaign, but
Okay.
what we're going to do is relaunch our campaign.
Okay.
So hopefully what I'm trying to do is you guys have my my Instagram as my Facebook. So in the next week, what I'm going to do is relaunch, and then I'm absolutely going to have my website up,
Right.
and then I will have the Indiegogo information and send it to you guys.
you need to hurry up.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
get this done.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
and then come back.
Absolutely.
So we can help you raise this money.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much for the
Yes, sir.
information,
Thank
man. This
you.
was awesome.
Absolutely.
I will
Such a
expect.
pleasure.
Hold on. Is this T-shirt your design?
No, this is actually a company named Stoop and Stank, and
Okay.
I actually found them in Philly because I was working on a
Dig 'em
different
up,
film.
dig 'em up.
Yeah,
Give 'em a shout out.
Stoop and Stank in
I
Philadelphia.
know you're black.
They
we
do.
know that you're a black company. We need shirts. We need shirts.
So when I told her what I was doing, she said absolutely, and she made a promotion with
Okay.
my company so that we could then get discounts for the shirts for people who donate to the film.
Well, let's make it happen.
Absolutely.
I'll pay for my shirt. Stoop and Stank.
Yes.
Stoop and stank.
Yeah.
I need it. That's 3 colors.
Yeah.
I can't forget that.
No.
Stoop and Stank.
go.
Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
For more information on how to become a guest on Real Talk with Philip Carter, or for general inquiries, please email us at realtalkwithphilipcarter@yahoo.com. Tune in next Monday for another edition of Real Talk with Philip Carter.